Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Migrating from Oracle eBusiness Suite to the Oracle Cloud, featuring Gina Huffman from Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. My name is Sybil Nyland, and I'm the Marketing Manager for Creole Consulting. I'll be moderating today's webinar. All attendees are placed in listen-only mode and will remain that way for the duration of our webinar. If you have a question, please enter it into the chat feature of Zoom and raise your hand. I'll alert our speakers who will address your question at an appropriate time. Our speakers today are Gina Huffman from Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, as well as Thomas Simkis and Stephen Goldsmith from Creole Consulting. Hand it over to you, Stephen.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining today. I thought we would start with some brief introductions. I'll start with myself and then we'll go around the room. Steve Goldsmith, I've been with Creole Consulting for a couple of years, but I've been implementing Oracle for just over 20 years and appreciate everybody joining today. Emily, pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you and welcome. My name is Emily DiGiorgio. I am a ERP business analyst for Creole Consulting, as well as the healthcare industry lead. So I'm excited to be here for this presentation.
Great. Tom?
I'm Tom Simkis. I'm the practice director here at Creole Consulting. So I run the commercial, state, and local practice. I've been working with Oracle applications as an end user and as a consultant since 1998. Working with Oracle Cloud since 2013, since it was generally available. And I'm an Oracle ACE. You want to learn more about that, you can Google it. It's fascinating stuff. Stephen?
Great. And now the most important person, Gina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Gina Huffman. I am the Division Manager of Business Operations here at the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. In that role, I oversee the finance department and our back office business operations, responsible for the financial system. My background's in IT, actually, 20 years working in the mental health nonprofit space. And about 6 years ago, I came to public and am now working with the Cuyahoga County Board. It's part of a state system here in Ohio, managing funds for the people with developmental disabilities in Cuyahoga County.
Great. Thank you, Gina. So as for our topics today, we thought we would introduce you a little bit about Cuyahoga and what Cuyahoga does. Talk to you about where Cuyahoga came from, Oracle EBS, what their implementation life cycle was like, some of the challenges and some of the lessons learned, and where Gina's looking to go in the future with Oracle on the cloud. So Gina, you want to tell us a little bit about Cuyahoga and what your organization does?
Sure. I said a little bit in my intro, but Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities is part of the overall Cuyahoga County government system. And as Board of Developmental Disabilities, we interact with state and local government officials to manage and support the state's developmental disabilities system. We oversee about $156 million annually with funds related to Medicaid waivers, and we serve about 10,000 individuals in a year.
Great. And Gina, how many employees does the organization have?
We have approximately 600 employees at the moment.
Okay, and how many of them are back office?
About 50, 60.
Okay, great. All right, maybe share with the group where you came from.
Sure. When I started here with the board, I inherited a very old version of Oracle eBusiness Suite. It had not been upgraded and support had not been maintained. So it was pretty difficult for us to manage any sort of changes, updates, things that we would need to do in order to improve our reporting as our organization changes. We also, because we did not implement accounts receivable in Oracle whenever the system was put into place in 1997, we used Quicken to do our manual, or to do our accounts receivable, and then we would put those entries into EBS. And we also printed our checks from Quicken. So it was a pretty complicated system. And then we relied on Excel and manual journal entries for just about everything else, fixed assets, tracking, depreciation, and did a lot of manual journal entries.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I'm sure those Excel files were pretty large in terms of calculating depreciation.
Yes.
Yep. So a lot of organizations have EBS in their data centers and some hosted in the cloud. Where was EBS hosted?
We had it on premise.
Okay.
So we were supporting a server here. And one of the challenges with that also became security and whether we would be able to maintain that system for the foreseeable future. It became quite touchy in terms of security.
Right. Okay, great. All right, so I mean, touched on some of these challenges, but if you could expand on some of the other areas which drove you to look at alternative solutions.
Sure. Obviously, not having had updates and not maintaining the system resulted in us being significantly out of date. And one of the challenges that came with that is it was extremely difficult to find anyone to work with us whenever we did encounter a problem to resolve our issues. Anyone who maintained the system internally in terms of reporting or database administration, those people had all retired, and no one with any institutional knowledge was left in the organization. So it was a trial by fire for sure. And a lot of manual processes and integrations as things had changed over time with the organization. The path of least resistance a lot of times was an Access database or an Excel spreadsheet, or some other really simple program that someone could write in order to manage things. And that made it extremely difficult to do reports because we had data sitting in multiple places. It wasn't connected in any true way. And it wasn't really useful for us in terms of doing any kind of analysis or planning with that data.
I found your point just interesting around getting resources. So we have the same issue as a consulting firm. Nobody's learning EBS as a net new Oracle consultant. And even the consultants that have EBS expertise and maybe have done it for 10, 15 years, take it off their resume. They want to do cloud ERP projects. So we're same problem. Okay, talk a little bit about your selection process, if you could.
All right. Well, we issued a request for proposals for a financial system in June of 2021. We detailed all of the specifications, what we wanted in that system as part of that proposal. Being a government entity, of course, for an investment of this size, we'd be required to do an RFP. So we put as much into that as we could to really think about what we needed, what we wanted to get out of the system, what were some of the challenges that we were currently experiencing, and how we might be able to resolve those with the new system. And all of that was incorporated into the RFP. And we chose some very simple things, a flexible system that we would be able to change as our organization changed. government organizations are very fluid from one administration to the next, or one fiscal year to the next, or however the funding changes. And Ohio is no different in that way. And we wanted to be able to make those changes and manage our system easily whenever those things happened. We also wanted an easier way to share information. A lot of what we do is extremely collaborative. We have people working on contracts with private providers of developmental disability services, not always real technically sophisticated. So it can be complicated to manage the back and forth with accounts receivable and the accounts payable aspect of that internally and externally. So we wanted to make sure that at least internally we would be able to really manage how that information got to the right places. We also wanted to give people more of a personal touch with reporting. Everything in EBS that we had came directly from the finance department, which was a big draw on resources. No one had the ability to pull information out except for the finance department. So that really restricted other departments, other programs' ability to run their operations and keep track of their own budgets. So we wanted the ability for people to get to their own information. Right. We also have financial reports that are part of the public record as a government organization. And so we have that requirement, but we also are a business. We're trying to manage this money in the most efficient way. We're trying to make sure that we're making good use of taxpayer dollars. And as part of that, we wanted to make sure we were clearly communicating how much we were spending on programs and services versus how much was overhead or administrative costs. So we needed an ability to make financial reports that could clearly communicate that we were actually fulfilling our mission. And then we do integrate with a number of different systems, the state of Ohio, the Department of Developmental Disabilities in Ohio, the county, and other organizations. And it was really important that we would be able to import and export information as we got it. Our county-wide system is something other than Oracle. And in order for us to be able to work with that system, we really needed to be able to exchange information. So we wanted a really easy way that we could import and export information. So that was key to us as well.
And how many vendors did you put the software RFP out to?
We have guidelines around how it's supposed to be sent out. So it actually was posted in the paper. It was posted online. Really? It was shared pretty widely. And we had, unfortunately, only five companies responded, but they were good companies to review. So we were really lucky in that way.
Yeah, reviewing RFPs is always a challenge too, right? So
yeah,
sometimes you score them and everybody has kind of a similar score. Now, the hindsight being 2020, were there things that you would have added to your RFP now that you've gone through the implementation life cycle?
I would have paid more attention to reporting requirements. So that was a big thing for us. And I think we were focused more on what the ability would be to do, what could we do in the future, or what could we create with this system? We weren't really thinking about, on day one, we need to have XYZ in order to maintain and keep track of what's going on. And I wish I would have spent a little bit more time defining those custom reports that would have been helpful for us. So I guess that's probably the biggest thing.
That's a common thread we see on all our implementations. Everybody's rushing to get the software in and process transactions, but it seems to be an afterthought in terms of how you're going to get the information out, and that often leads to another phase, or which is either done by a consulting firm, or I think in this case we're looking to get you up to speed in terms of developing reports internally. Yep, very common theme. Okay, great. All right, a little bit about the Oracle solution you implemented and kind of where you are in that life cycle of implementation.
Okay, we are doing Oracle Cloud Software as a Service. We no longer have that on-premise equipment to maintain, which is great. And we're all compliant with all security requirements, which is also great. But we, whenever we went into this project, one of the things that this is kind of the joke that I told our CEO, we put all of our pain in a basket. Everything that we had been suffering with, or that was a real challenge for us in the current system and systems, all those spreadsheets. And as we went through the process, we pulled those out to see where we could resolve a lot of that using Oracle Cloud. So we were looking at general ledger. Accounts payable is huge for us because we're maintaining a countywide system of developmental disabilities services. That's everything from healthcare to, internet supports for remote monitoring. It's just a lot of really varied payables. And we also maintain receivables. That was probably one of the things that was the biggest win for us was we weren't tracking our receivables we were using Quicken. So we didn't have a really good bead on whenever we send out invoices for shared services or whenever we're receiving funds from different sources, a nice way to integrate that with what money was going out. As well as fixed assets. We're required to keep a fixed assets depreciation as part of our, they call it a cost report here in Ohio, just to prove or show that you're spending Medicaid money appropriately. And we needed a good way to do that as well. And procurement is huge for us because we're looking for all of these different kinds of services. All different kinds of vendors. We needed a really strong solution that would give us good purchasing. And along with that, we needed the ability to do a lot of approvals. Because we're a government organization, we need to make sure we have lots of purchasing thresholds that we have to adhere to. Certain things need to be approved by our board. That kind of stuff. So we wanted a system that would be able to provide that for us as well. And then probably, I feel like I keep saying, and the biggest thing was, because they were all big things to us, a budgeting system. We didn't have a really good way to do budgeting, and it's a very diversified here. Every department manages their own budget and determines their own budget, and we go through a really elaborate process to come up with that budget. And we had been using a custom application that some employee 10 years ago wrote for us. And that, of course, broke after they retired. And then we were using Excel spreadsheets. And whenever you're trying to maintain or budget for a system this big, that was extremely challenging. So we really wanted a system that would allow us to bring all those people together in one system where we could keep track of each dollar amount that they budgeted and what project they budgeted it for, so that we weren't trying to create the wheel every time we had to do any kind of reporting.
Okay, so one of the interesting things on your footprint was something at the platform level and not at the software level. And Tom, this is an area that maybe you want to talk about. I'll just preface it by saying that typically you think about Oracle Integration Cloud as a tool for interfaces or integration to other systems. Tom, if you could talk about how this was actually used during the implementation.
Sure. So we didn't have we knew we wouldn't have a lot of extensions at Cuyahoga. So we used the PAS enterprise adapters. So there's two different flavors of PAS. And we use the Oracle Integration Cloud. And it's got these things called pre-built adapters. which is pre-built connectors that allow you to connect Oracle paths to other systems. And some of those adapters are for eBusiness Suite. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get the data into the Oracle Cloud as quickly as possible, and then just see how it was going to be so that we could make some informed decisions for how Cuyahoga was going to change and transform the data. So we used the enterprise adapters to bring some of the legacy eBusiness Suite transactions into Oracle. They helped us with conversions, but B, it also helped us model it. So, we did that within the first 40 days. So when we went to our first CRP, we had some good data, at least from a financials perspective in the system. And we, meaning the Creel team, were able to see how that behaved in Oracle Cloud and then present a better solution to the Cuyahoga team on how to model it and how to articulate it so we get to leverage the most functionality in cloud going forward. And that's really an approach that we're taking, Stephen, with our, EBS to cloud campaign that we're kind of undertaking with a lot of our clients, using those adapters to do a like-for-like migration. So at least you can get in the cloud and see how it behaves, and then you can decide what you want to change as you move the project forward.
Great, thanks, Tom. And then Gina, one question for you. You mentioned earlier you had 5 software vendors that responded. What were some of the deciding factors in terms of Oracle?
We wanted an organization that we knew we could rely on, a company that we knew would be around for a while, that it had a track record of success, that it would be able to manage all of the complicated little pieces and parts that go along with running a governmental organization, and hit all of our compliance points. So we were really looking for something that we could rely on, something that would be that we knew we would be able to use for a long time. We wanted to make an investment.
Okay. And another quick question just to add on, were the things that you saw in Oracle after you implemented that you didn't think would be there or part of a solution of this in this area?
I think we're still finding those things, particularly around the access to information that people didn't have before that now they have. We're also, it's sort of an unpleasant discovery, but as we're able to have access to more information and we're looking, we can see where we need to make some improvements in our processes to make sure that people are entering the data correctly, or that they're allocating funds accurately. So we can see a lot of that now. And I feel like we have a lot better handle on what's going in our system. It's a little concerning to see things bubble up like that, but the other side of that is it's nice to be able to find solutions for those sorts of things as well, and to know what you have to work with.
Yeah, it always never ceases to amaze me. You put security in place and you put integrity in, you think integrity in terms of the data that people are going to put in, both from a system perspective and an education perspective. And then there's always what people do, which never ceases to amaze me. So feel your pain. Okay, great. Now I know it was and you and I have talked about this, it was a super aggressive timeline. And I think it'd be worth sharing with the folks on the call, the good, the bad, the ugly of an aggressive timeline and whether you would do it again.
It was an extremely aggressive timeline. I would not do it again. But the upside to it was that it really kept us on track. It kept us moving. We never lost steam at any point in the process. And I think that was really good for the staff I had working on the project, because they were trying to do their day jobs at the same time. But they kept us right in the forefront, and we were able to see it through to the end. And that I thought was really impressive. One of the things that really helped us with this really quick timeline was the whole process that Creel used with us to implement, to go through how we wanted to do the setup and how we wanted to do the data conversion. It was very well thought out and very well planned. So at every step, it was manageable steps, so we didn't feel overwhelmed. And it was also set up in a way that we familiarized ourselves with the system as we went through the process. So that whenever we got to the day that we went live, my staff that were working to support the rest of the organization were fairly comfortable with Oracle. And I think that was probably the best outcome.
Yeah. Gone are the days where during an implementation, you can take people out of their day job, right? Backfill them, and then they become fully dedicated to
Right.
implementation. Yep. All right, great. Talk a little bit about, if you could, what you got out of the implementation so far to date.
Sure. Yes, as I stated a little bit earlier, the best practice business processes, working with Creel to identify areas where we might want to improve the way we're doing things. What is the best practice? What is the recommendation? How do other companies go about doing some of these more complex accounting tasks that we have as a government organization? That gave me great peace of mind to know that that was part of what we were looking at as we went through the process. Another thing that is extremely helpful to us is our financial reporting was such a manual process, and it took days to be able to finish. And so that really took away from our ability to analyze data, because you're spending most of your time creating the report. You don't really have a whole lot of time to look at it to figure out what everything means. So we're really enjoying the opportunity to look at the numbers, look at where we're going, what are the trends. That has been fantastic. And that, of course, shortened the monthly close. So it doesn't take us 10 days to finish. Our close is relatively simple. We just got to check and make sure that we have all of the pieces, parts together. But it never should have taken us 10 days. It shouldn't take us more than a couple, and we're able to achieve that now. And probably the biggest thing was the reduced IT reliance. Our IT resources are stretched pretty thin. And so it was really nice to not have to wait in line with the other parts of the organization for IT assistance, particularly when it came to maintaining that server that was outdated and what needed to be done to keep that running. It was really nice to be able to pull some reporting tasks back into the finance department and give us a little bit more control over when we got the data and how it looked.
Yep. Excellent. All right. I think we're towards the last slide. Where are you going from here? And I'm most excited about the second bullet, but go ahead.
Yeah. It's a brave new world for us.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. Really, really happy that we went with the Creel customer support desk for functional support. We were not sure if we were going to move ahead with that. It is obviously additional to what Oracle provides. We didn't know, are we really going to need that? But once we got into the system and we saw what we could do, we realized that it would be really nice to have a partner in going through all of those capabilities and make sure that we get what we wanted out of the system and make sure we get the full value of our investment. So the Creel support desk has been really, really great in helping us just get more familiar with the system. Hey, we want to figure out how to use this function over here. It really could save us some time. Can you help us set it up? Help us figure out how to work it. That's been a really great resource for us, and we've really enjoyed having that support. We're looking at expanding or building our ability to do internal reports. So as I said, we don't really have a whole lot of IT capability here. We have all of this data that we want to get to, and we have a lot of finance staff that are really hungry for that data. They really like to look at those numbers. So we want to be able to build those internal report capabilities. We want to be able to do some of those ad hoc reports ourselves, and just give people a little bit more freedom to look at the data the way they need it. And then the big project, probably the grand finale of this entire process, will be in July when we start our budget process. We will be going live with EPM. So we've set it up. We've gone through the process of getting it prepared. And whenever we actually go through our process for 2024's budget, we will be doing that through EPM, which is, we're very excited about that as well.
Be able to retire some more of those spreadsheets, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I think probably maybe one of the most valuable things is what knowledge can you impart on this group here in terms of your lessons learned?
Sure. We knew that we needed to make some significant changes to our chart of accounts, and we knew what kind of structure we wanted. But I don't know that we really thought through all of the, as it says, downstream implications of a new chart of accounts, how that would end up impacting some of the department reporting, how that would impact us comparing 2022 to 2023 as we translated all of it was a radical overhaul of our chart of accounts. I wish I would have given a little bit more thought to that. Real happy with our chart of accounts. It's great, and we're able to get really good data out of it, but some things are a little difficult. I think we could have put to rest. The aggressive timeline really did, as I said earlier, help keep the team on track, keep everybody focused, and keep everybody working on it and making sure that we met our deadline. But it was very overwhelming and stressful for staff. I don't know that I would go with as aggressive a timeline. I'd maybe add 2 months to it, just to stretch it out a little bit, so that it wasn't quite as intense on everyone. But I really liked the pace of it. That was a really, really good thing for us. We had really strong executive support. Our CFO, our chief executive officer, superintendent, they were all extremely supportive. Like, this was a priority for our organization, and it was given that sort of attention and that sort of emphasis. So that also made it easier for my staff to get through the project, because they knew that the organization was putting the emphasis on this implementation, that they were supporting them through this implementation, making sure that they had the resources they need. They understood that maybe some things would take a little bit more time to get out because everybody's working on this project. So that was really, really critical. And honestly, having worked in IT, that's not always something that you get. The executive support can't end when you sign the contract. You need to stick with it and keep track of what's going on with your people, make sure they're supported. And as I also said earlier, the reporting, I wish I would have spent a little bit more time thinking that through, and just making sure that we started off with a good set of things that would at least get us through the period where we're acquainting ourselves with the system and really seeing what we're able to do.
Yeah. The third bullet around executive support, Tom, Emily, you guys have seen, we go into every project and everybody says they have, executive support. But it seems like your organization, Gina, really, they came through with it. It wasn't just, you always see the executives participate in the kickoff, right? And then, turning around the key decisions you need to make throughout the project and turning around quickly and making sure resources can support the project. Super important. We see that as a pain point on so many projects. All right, so now it's time for Q&A. If you've got questions, or Sybil, if there are questions in the chat, let's raise them up, and we'll play Stump the Presenter. How about that?
Okay, so Looks like we do have one question, and that is, how would you compare Oracle FSG to Cloud FRS?
That's more of a consulting question than it is for Gina.
Well, I've been playing in both, and because this is something that I'm working on trying to learn, and I had really struggled with EBS and FSG, trying to figure out if I wanted to make any changes to a financial report. The FRS and cloud is a lot more intuitive. It is still a really crazy reporting tool, but it has a lot of functionality and you can see what you're doing. It's a little bit easier to use. I thought I can make changes to the financial reports without a whole lot of extra effort. So I'm happy with it.
Great. Sybil, any other questions in the chat?
I do not see any other questions at this time.
All right, so just make a couple closing remarks. First of all, Gina, thank you so much for sharing your experience. For those of you who would like to meet Gina in person, I heard before this call, you're going to be going to the Ascend User Conference in July, if I remember correctly. So July in Orlando, be a little warm. And then we will be sending out a link to the recording if you want to share it with other colleagues in your organization, for those of you that attended. But again, thank you, Gina, so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Stephen, real quick, just something I'd like to comment on. So for anybody that's in EBS, really any legacy system, Gina kind of hinted on it. Reports never get the attention that they deserve for a variety of reasons. What we really try to do when we have a longer window, right, wrong, or different, we went with an aggressive time scale. But when we do our conference room pilots, we really try to hit on the reporting in the art of the possible. And so when you're thinking about undergoing your ERP journey, whether you go to Oracle ERP Cloud or some other inferior system, just make sure that you are cognizant. So see what I did there? But just make sure you're cognizant of what you want and what really is a report. And I'll give you something that we see quite a bit that's always a challenge to any consulting firm. We get Excel documents. They're amalgams of information from like 20 disparate systems. Now, that's not a report. I know you call it a report, but if 25 people got to put it together, it's not a report. You have to break that down into logical areas that you can use to give good, meaningful information, right? So, within Oracle, you got these dashboards, these infolets, and all these whiz-bang things we light up by default, but they're defaults. They're not built for Cuyahoga County. They're not built for any organization. They're best practices from Oracle, and they're really a great place to get started. But the reality situation is you should take that information and consume it and then think about how it's pertinent for your organization. So when you start the project, you can go in armed with the questions to ask and not really have your consultants trying to drive that information out. There's a question: have you considered using third-party reporting solutions? You committed to the embedded solutions in the cloud? That's a vendor question if I've ever seen one. So Gina, you can certainly answer that, but the county's still exploring all the stuff that's available within ERP Cloud. And there's a lot there. There's some really cool third-party products out there. But most of them, in my experience, and I've been doing cloud for a long time, is superfluous. They do nothing better or different than what you get out of ERP Cloud. If you just have the wherewithal and the attention to kind of do it. But the question was directed, I think, more towards you, Gina. So are you already looking at third-party tools, seeing it hasn't gone through everything that's available in cloud yet?
Yeah, no, not yet. But I would honestly say that we would consider that if we got to a point where we completely outstretch our expertise on Oracle and we want to explore other things, I always try to stay open to that.
Yeah, and to Stephen's point earlier, and for anybody listening, the intention is there's an Oracle user conference. The Creole is an avid supporter of the Oracle Applications and Technology User Group. I'm actually on the education committee, and we do present quite frequently at those sessions and shows that if you are an end user, you get sessions like these. Like Gina is an end user. She's a client, but she's an end user. You get truth, right? She told you, it was aggressive, and we're the implementation partner, and she would like to have a little more time. So you get the truth at those conferences. So I would urge the attendees, if you're thinking about attending a conference this year and you only have budget for one, I would recommend the Orlando, because there's nothing like Orlando in June, but the Orlando conference for Ascend. It's really a good conference. Sybil, back to you.
All right, thank you, Tom and Gina and Stephen and Emily. This concludes our webinar, and as Stephen mentioned, we're going to have this recording available to anyone who requests it. We're also going to post it to our website. It'll be available as a download in our newsletter as well. So please stay tuned for more information to come from Creel Consulting. Thanks for joining us today, and have a great day.
Thanks.